David Cole, from the perspective of the American Civil Liberties Union, what do you see in this nomination?
So the first thing I should say is that the ACLU, by policy, doesn't endorse or oppose nominees to the Supreme Court. We remain neutral. I think, to me, the biggest lesson here is elections matter. If Democrats had come out to vote for Hillary Clinton like they came out to vote for Barack Obama in the prior two elections, Hillary Clinton would have been appointing this nominee. She would have appointed Scalia's replacement. We would have an entirely different world. And that's the way politics works here. So I think the real response has to be politics.
But in terms of some of the decisions, that the record that we have right now of Kavanaugh, what do you see as some of the most troubling decisions he's made in the past from civil liberties perspective?
So I think, look, he's conservative. Anyone that President Trump would have named would be conservative. He's a very smart, very qualified conservative. That's what we were going to get, very likely. So, but I think, given what President Trump has said, that he wants to overturn Roe versus Wade, I think it's incumbent upon the Senate to really ask hard questions and demand answers to those questions. So, for example, do you believe in an evolving Constitution? Do you believe in a Constitution that made segregation unconstitutional because it wasn't unconstitutional when the 14th Amendment was adopted, that made sex discrimination a violation of the Equal Protection Clause because it wasn't a violation of the Equal Protection Clause if you read it as the founders interpreted it? Is he going to say, I'm an originalist, I don't believe that Brown versus Board was right, I don't believe women are protected by the Equal Protection Clause? Similarly, you could ask him, do you believe that the Constitution protects the freedom of individuals to make personal choices about their bodies and their families? That's the right recognized by the court for decades that guarantees every American the right to choose contraception, guarantees every woman the right to abortion, guarantees gay and lesbian couples the right to marry on equal terms as straight couples. Do you believe that? So I think we can ask those questions of him. His record is conservative, absolutely, but those seem to me to be the critical questions that you'd want to ask to see whether this is somebody who's going to really take us back to some kind of constitution that is unrecognizable, or whether he's not. And I don't think we know the answer to those questions, actually. I think he's been conservative, but he's been pragmatic. He has been criticized by the conservatives for not going hard right enough on the Affordable Care Act cases, on the Jane Doe case involving the young woman who was detained and denied an abortion. So I think it remains to be seen. But I think it's, we can't gamble on it. We need to have the senators ask very hard questions.
I want to actually ask you about immigration in a moment, even beyond Kavanaugh. ACLU involved in the latest issue to reunite children. Yeah. But I wanted to go back for a moment to Cecile Richards when you talk about the Jane Doe case. If you can talk about this young immigrant woman who is in immigration detention in Texas and what happened to her.
Yeah, well, this is, again, a case where, and obviously it was ACLU, thank goodness, was on the spot and defended her. But yes, he felt like it was not an undue burden to deny this young woman the ability to access a safe and legal abortion that she not only had the resources for, she had the right to, she had gone through all the various stages that you have to go through in Texas, which is very hard. And the restrictions are so onerous. And he did not feel like it was an undue burden to delay this young woman's access to abortion. Fortunately, he was overruled. But that, to me, I mean, there's so many indications that, in fact, he is not sympathetic to abortion rights. He has praised, William Rehnquist in a very lengthy speech just recently, including Rehnquist's dissent in Roe versus Wade. And as we know, I mean, we just had this case, the Texas case that went up to the Supreme Court that declared the Texas laws unconstitutional. if there is one switch in the Supreme Court, those kinds of restrictions would now stand. I mean, this is a very, very serious decision, and I hope every single senator, including the 2 Republican women who have been very staunch supporters of abortion rights, actually ask specifically, what is his position on the right to abortion, which women have had for more than 40 years?